This is the Week in Sustainability from Sustain.Life. It's where our team of sustainability experts and practitioners share commentary to keep you up to date on developing stories and news.
Hi, I'm Hannah Osofsky, Sustainability Data Analyst at Sustain.Life. Noah, welcome to the Week in Sustainability.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here. So, just a quick introduction. My name is Noah Jakis. I work as a sales development representative here at Sustain.Life, kind of getting to be that first point of contact for customers as well as prospective customers, and really hearing their stories about what they're looking to accomplish within sustainability.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Our audience has probably picked up on this already, but if we have any new listeners, Sustain.Life is a completely remote workforce. So I live in the Florida Keys and Noah lives in St. Louis. So we're experiencing two different summers. How has summer felt for you so far?
Definitely a hot one. I would say St. Louis is definitely known for really frigid winters and really hot summers. And this summer is definitely a hot one.
Yeah, so everyone's experiencing it a little bit differently, but July is breaking records that we don't want to see break. So we've seen really heavy rains in Korea and Japan that has caused flooding and landslides. The northeastern United States experienced similar flooding, which, we saw footage of Fenway Park just fill with water, and tons of farms in Vermont and Massachusetts saw their summer harvests drown. And zooming out away from rainstorms, globally, July was the hottest month on record. Heat waves hit in the Mediterranean, Mexico, China, and locally, the southern United States.
Yeah. And I know you've previously covered things like the Canadian wildfires, which were obviously intensified by climate change. But I guess the question remains like, is this climate change? Has it arrived finally? Plus, I know we're in an El Nino year. So just curious what kind of effect that's having on the global temperature as well.
Yeah. So overall, yes, this is climate change. We're feeling it. The World Weather Attribution Group published a paper that these heat waves that they're seeing in North America and Europe would have been impossible without the warm forcing of greenhouse gases. So you're totally right. We are in an El Nino year, which would typically contribute around zero point 0.2 degrees Celsius to global surface temperatures. And essentially what happens is that the ocean absorbs like 90% of atmospheric heat. And in La Nina years, the Pacific is colder. It absorbs more heat. In El Nino years, like we are right now, the waters are warmer and spread across the Pacific, so they release heat, if anything. They absorb a lot less heat, and heat is either released from the ocean into the atmosphere or not absorbed at all.
Yeah.
El Nino definitely has had a role to play, but we wouldn't have broken records if it was just El Nino.
And I guess just assuming El Nino is expected to last through the winter, and I would imagine we shouldn't be expecting any sort of cooler summer next year. But just thinking about the ocean and the absorption of all this heat, have we seen any sort of changes within kind of marine ecosystems because of this heat?
Yeah, really, really sadly, we did. Just as atmospheric temperatures hit new highs, so did the ocean. And we've seen ocean sea surface temperatures rise pretty consistently over the past few years, but there's an inlet down here in the Keys that registered at 101 degrees Fahrenheit on July 24th. The ocean life isn't adapted to a bathtub, and this July's temperatures led to really huge bleaching events, both in the United States only warm water coral systems, which are down in Florida, but then
Yeah.
huge massive bleaching events in the Persian Gulf as well. So bleached coral isn't necessarily dead yet, but bleaching leaves them super vulnerable to eventually dying, and summer's not over yet. So they're just
Yeah.
really sensitive right at the beginning of the season.
Gotcha. And yeah, I guess once those reefs do die, then that is habitat loss for a number of different populations, which will in turn decline. And then with that, that's food sources and income sources, as well as with coastal erosion, that's protection that is lost by those coastal regions. Like obviously it's tragic to see these consequences becoming a reality, but we've also kind of been warned about these since the 80s for the past few decades. So did anything in July in particular happen that we didn't expect?
Yeah, so amidst all of the really bad news, which you're right is kind of, we've known it was going to happen. We just didn't know it was going to happen right now. And There was one thing that happened that I A, didn't expect, and B, found just too ironic not to talk about. So did you happen to notice that gas prices jumped up at all last week?
I definitely did. And didn't OPEC also reduce output?
Yeah, so OPEC reduced output, and those production cuts absolutely have a role to play in jumping gas prices. Something else happened too. Oil refineries in Texas and Louisiana were so overheated that they had to pause production.
So fossil fuel equipment is not able to withstand the warming temperatures that it's kind of having a hand in causing.
Exactly. So Patrick DeHaan, who runs petroleum analysis for GasBuddy, which is this great tech company that tracks gas stations, but it also tracks a lot of really important data around gas distribution. And he explained that, these refineries they're aging infrastructure. They were built for normal conditions, not extremes. And he even went on to say, A, this is the beginning of summer. We can expect that temperatures will continue to force outages, and the Gulf of Mexico is warmer than it ever has been, and we should expect even more outages during hurricane season.
So with those outages, and I guess it is surprising to hear that those refineries are kind of struggling with rising temperatures and functionality in that heat. Does this leave renewables to be a more viable option, I guess?
That seems spot on. It's dealing with these new heat extremes is going to be an obstacle for any industry that conducts work outside. Oil and gas is included in that. Workers installing things like renewables, like solar panels, and non-renewables, like manning refineries, they're facing the same risk of heat exposure. And OSHA is already adjusting a lot of their heat-related policies to keep workers safe in these conditions. Where things differ between the oil and gas infrastructure and renewable tech is that renewables are certainly imperfect, but they're developed with a warming climate in mind. Oil and gas infrastructure is significantly older and aging poorly. While immediate repairs are important for safety, environmentally, and for workers, it's kind of silly to spend money proofing these technologies when you could easily jump to a less harmful solution.
I guess in the end, the only solution that really is going to cut across all of these consequences that we're seeing this year, and especially this month, is going to be that transformative decarbonization. So it seems a little counterintuitive to try and cool off the planet while we're still simultaneously heating it up.
Sustain.Life is a sustainability management SaaS platform with deep carbon expertise that helps future-proof small and medium-sized enterprises by taking climate action. Go to Sustain.Life to learn more. Thanks for listening and watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel or your favorite podcast platform. We'll see you next week.